Hi everyone, this is Life from a Christian Perspective with Faye. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch my channel. I thank you. This is where we talk about living in Christ, for Christ, and doing everything to glorify Jesus Christ, our Maker. And we talk about different things that relates to Christianity and how we can live for God better. So today we will be talking about something that's not so often discussed in the world that we are in, especially in the Christian world, which is called the child sexual abuse. More and more recent times I've been hearing people are starting to come out to talk about it. But generally, it's still something that is hidden, that is not really spoken about. But we do know that this exists, and we need to deal with this in the Christian way to understand how better to deal with it and how we can actually reduce this so that the world will be a better place at the end of the day. I would like to start first with telling us what actually child sexual abuse is. It is the involvement of a child in a sexual activity that he or she does not understand, cannot give informed consent to, and for which the child is not developmentally prepared for, or something that violates the social taboo of the society. And so that is, I think, another reason why people don't really want to talk about it. So I want to look at it that how does it even occur? And when we look at it that even within the Christian family, why does it happen? What are the impacts of it to a child and even to the family as a whole if they get to know about it? And so we have somebody here with us today to share our lived experience of being a child that has been abused and how it impacted on our lessons that she might share to inform parents of how they might deal better with the situation so that at the end of the day, we'll be able to reduce the prevalence of child sexual abuse in our society. So without taking so much of your time, I would like to start to interview the person that's here. We won't be showing the face of this person that's been interviewed because up to now, some of our family members do not know about it, and that's another thing we will be discussing about. And so, but she would be willing and she want to everybody to know about our experience and how to also help to prevent another child from being in the same situation she has been. So thank you once again. Thank you so much for the time taken to be here with us to share your lived experience with us. So I'd like to ask you, how old were you when it happened? Which country were you in? And take us through what actually happened.
Okay, thank you for having me here. I was 8 years old when it first happened. It happened over a period of time. That's why I said when it first happened. And it happened in Nigeria. I was 8 years old and mom and dad were working, so they would go to work. And we had this cousin who was living in the village, and then I think he finished his secondary school. So he came to the city to live with his aunt. And you know how our parents then would just assume that their relatives from, especially the village, are good people, well brought up, and they are many parents, and they can entrust the care of their children into the hands of these people. So we were three then, my older brother, and then myself, and then my younger sister. So usually my brother would go play football, and whenever he doesn't go to play football, he is sent on an errand. And the girl would either go with mom to shop or stay at home. And of course, she was very young, so she doesn't even know what is happening. So this cousin would call when it's just me and him around, would call me. He would sit by the dining on the dining chair and then call me like he wants to pamper a little cousin. And then he tells me to sit on the table, like the dining table, directly facing him. And then he's teaching me how to play all this village games and all those poems and all the stories they tell us in the village. Okay, and then at a point he asked me to sit on his laps. And before sitting on his laps, he already unzipped and brought out his Mr. Man. And so I sat on the laps. I felt a bit like this place is not smooth. Like it's not like as smooth as daddy's laps when I sit on him or whatever. And then I think he looked at my expression and then he put me back on the table and then life continued. And the next time when he was bringing me back to sit on his laps, he used his hand to pull my pants sideways so that he could push in as soon as I sat on his lap. That felt so uncomfortable, and he used his hand to close my mouth and told me not to tell anybody. So, of course, I didn't tell anybody. It was so strange. And then, when growing up, too, we had this parent that there are some things you can't even tell them. It's either they don't believe you, or I don't know how they, I'm sorry to say, how they think then that their children would lie and the ones from the village are the truthful ones. So I couldn't tell my parents. I was like, what's this? And I think it happened two times, and then it was Christmas. So another another person came from, I don't know where he came from. There is this um, annual convention or whatever it is we do in our country. So this guy came for the trade fair event. He came to sell some things. So I think it was also honey. So he stayed in our house. So I think he was also honey during the time of his stay. It's a week during the time of his stay in our house. And then this my village cousin said to this guy that came for trade fair that he could bring him somebody who would let him calm down. And it's just going to give me a pack of sweets. So the guy obliged to this arrangement. And then my cousin made sure that nobody was around. And this was in the night. So this guy that came for trade fair stayed at the boys' quarter. We always have boys' quarter in the houses in my country. So he stayed at the boys' quarters, and then my cousin came to call me as if, oh, he wanted myself and him to do some washing of dishes or whatever outside. So he took me to the boys' quarters and said, he called the name of the guy, I can't remember anymore. He said, so and so wants to see you. And I'm like, I don't know this person from anywhere. Why does he want to see me? Anyway, I went into the room, and as I entered the room, I didn't see anybody. And the guy was in the bathroom and was beckoning on me to come to the bathroom. And then immediately I remembered what the other guy did to me. And I was like, why should I come to the bathroom? He said I should come to the bathroom, that he's stuck in the bathroom. And that is, he can't come out now. So I have to come to the bathroom to be able to help him. I'm like, what kind of help? Did he break our plate? Because, of course, we served him food earlier. Did he break our plate? Did he break the cup? Is it going to be my problem? Like, I was already thinking, if you had broken a plate or a cup, then you are an old person. You won't even get the kind of beating we would get if we were the ones that broke. So I went into the bathroom and I saw that his Mr. Man was also out. And then he had Vaseline. And then he gave me the Vaseline and said, it's not going to hurt me. It's not going to try to penetrate or do anything silly. He just wanted me to put the Vaseline on his Mr. Man and rub it until he ejaculates. And I'm like, so how is this supposed to be my job? And then he said, shh, you must not tell anybody. Somebody who didn't want to come out of the bathroom before now quickly came out and locked the door. So my thought is, if I start screaming now, my parents would ask me, how did you get there? Why did you go there? And all of this. Are they going to kill me? Are they going to... I couldn't just think of what they were going to do. And they were this, like when we were growing up, very wicked disciplinary parents. You don't even want to say some things because we already had this mindset that instead of them to help you, they are going to just finish you, like kill you. So you don't even want to say some things around them. So I was like, okay, okay, if this is just it, let me just do it. So I took the Vaseline, I rubbed his Mr. Man until he ejaculated. I was looking away while rubbing it because it was the most horrific time of my life, even up till now. As I'm saying it now, I'm remembering it. And after it was at the point of him ejaculating right into my palms, I vomited. It was very, very irritating. So I vomited, and of course, he was mourning and doing all the rubbish with himself. And after he ejaculated, he was like, "Oh, thank you very much. It feels okay now." So I washed my hands and I was standing by the door so he could open the door for me to leave. So when I was leaving, he gave me a full bag of Eclair sweet. And I was like, no, I don't want the Eclair sweet. And then he said, no, you should take it. I said, no, I can't take it. Because there's also that part of me taking, I was 8 years old, taking Eclairs into the main house. And then my parents sees the Eclair sweet and they asked me, oh, so where did you get the sweet from? You started stealing. So there was everything going on. And then it goes, okay, if you won't take the whole bag, he opened the bag and gave me a few. So I was like, fine, I can take a few. So I squeezed in like 4 or 5 in my mouth, like just to enjoy what I suffered for just now. So that happened. The guy left after 1 week of trade fair. And then it was me and my cousin again. My cousin, I think he doesn't get horny all the time. I think he's just an opportunist. He just takes the opportunity of when he sees, oh, nobody is around, I can enjoy myself today. Then it comes true. So it happened 8 years old. Then it was Christmas. Yeah, after trade fair was Christmas. So this is the most disappointing part from my parents' side because I didn't tell them, but I'm not a child who is so reserved. I talk, I play, I do all my work like I'm not a naughty child. I'm one of the like the obedient children. So I'm always, but when this happened, I think it was Christmas morning, mommy cooked all the goodies and everything, and I was just there in my shell. I was just, and at some point, she would have to scream for me to jump out of my flesh and be like, oh, okay, I didn't know you told me to wash the dishes. And she didn't ask what was going on with me. Like, it was as if, what's wrong with this one? I don't have your time. I was thinking, can she not? Well, I wasn't a parent yet. I didn't know what I was expecting from her either. But I was just thinking, okay, as an adult, she should. The way they always say that parents would know everything you don't even know, she should be able to see through and tell me, oh, you went to the backyard yesterday, you robbed somebody's Mr. Man, and he gave you sweets. Like, I expected her to just spell it all out, and I'll just bust out crying, and then I can let out the fume and I'll be fine. But that didn't happen. Instead, she was just looking at me as if, what's wrong with this girl? Anyway, I don't know, and I don't want to know. And then we continued and we served the food, and we were at the dining. I think this was when Indomie noodles was still just came out in Nigeria and it was raining, and Indomie noodles was part of the food for the morning, like it was part of the menu for that morning. And as soon as she opened the bowl of noodles and I perceived it, I vomited. Like I vomited on the table. They quickly moved all of the food away from me. And she was like, are you sick? I said no. And then, so why are you vomiting? What's wrong with you? I couldn't explain it because I was just thinking, what will she say? Is she going to beat me? Will the beating lead to killing? Because you know how our parents will say, on the day I hear you do this, I'm going to kill you. Like, I'm practically going to kill you. So as children or as a child, I didn't know that the killing was not actually putting a knife on my neck and just slicing it off. So I couldn't talk. I didn't talk. I was just nodding my head like, no, I'm not sick. No, I'm fine. No, I'm going to be fine. And then everybody just went about their duties and activities, and I had to just continue my own life. Like, so it happened twice when I was 8 years old, and then I think because we relocated from where we were living to another state. So I think the busy schedule of the new state didn't allow my cousin to come so close to me again. He he probably got a girlfriend that he was messing around with. I can't remember, but he attempted it again in this new state. So when we got to the new state, it was I was already 10 years old, and I went to school. I went to secondary school. So it was a boarding school. I got to secondary school. We started learning biology. So when I got back home, of course, I know that now, unlike what our parents will tell us, that if a man touches you, you get pregnant. And if you get pregnant, I'm going to kill you. So these people, our teachers, actually taught us reproduction, like there has to be a penetration and this and that, and then the baby comes. So I knew it in school. And I knew that what this guy has been doing to me is going to get me pregnant if I'm not careful. Then I haven't even attained puberty, but I just knew that if I am not careful, I am going to mess up my life with this guy. Since I couldn't tell my parents, I just learned it from school, and I was waiting until the day he would want to come to me so I can kill him. At age 13, I was in GSS 3, and then that was when I started menstruating. I don't know. I think he also noticed some feminine changes and everything. And that brought him like, okay, this girl is now attaining the age. So maybe I should come and do it again. I would enjoy it more this time than I did previously. So that day, as usual, everybody was out. My brother was out. My younger sister, I think she must have followed mom to the shop. I can't remember, but I was the one at home. And of course, most of the time, because I am also like the small mommy at home, so I'm left at home to do all the chores, do the cookings and everything, just make the house habitable for every other person when they come back. So I was home. I think I was planning to pound yam because that's going to be for dinner. And then I was washing the mortar and pestle, and he came behind me and held my waist. I pushed him away. I was like, "What do you want?" He said, "Don't you remember? Don't you remember what we used to do? Blah blah blah." And then I think he thought I was enjoying it, so he was kind of getting really funky about it. So I was like, "Really? You think you can come and do it again?" And then he goes, "There's no big deal about it. What's wrong with you? Let's quickly do it before the other members of the family comes." Then I said, "Okay, wait." So I entered into the house. I think I took the pestle and then came back outside and said, "Okay, let's do it." And then he goes, "What do you want to do?" I said, "I'm going to break your head if you come closer to me." And then he goes, "Oh no, that it's not as bad as that, blah blah blah." And then I said to him, "If you know it's not as bad as that, don't ever come to me again for this. Otherwise, everywhere I go to, I'll make sure I have a knife in my pocket, because of course, because I am close to this pistol today, that is why I have it handy. But henceforth, I would have a knife in my pocket so that when you come close, I'm going to stab you." And then he goes, "Oh, sorry, sorry." And he left. And that was the end of it. So for a long time, he was still living with us. We see each other every day. I hated him so much. And every time my parents are talking about him and the way I respond to whatever they say, they give me that look as if is it, you will also know how our parents would not refer to their niece or nephew as their niece or nephew. They would rather say my brother or my sister, like my younger brother or my younger sister. And then my mom would be like, is it my younger brother you are talking to like that? And I'm thinking, this guy is not even your younger brother. Is the son to your older sister or is your cousin. So don't give me that attachment or emotion. I don't give in, give a damn to whatever happens to that guy. Like, I don't even care about him. So I finished secondary school. I went to uni. I think it was in 2005 when I finished uni. So his first abuse happened in 1990. 1990 or 91, they're about between 90 and 91, if I can remember very well. Yeah, 1990. And then in 2005, this was like 15 years after I came back from school. I think that was my last day in uni. So I brought all my things. So he now came to me and said he wanted to speak to me. And then I'm thinking, what do you want to say? So he took me out of the house, like, because he doesn't want anybody to hear the discussion. And then we went outside in a corner where people won't see him prostrating for his, in quotes, younger sister. So he prostrated and apologized for everything he ever did to me. And then I'm like, oh, okay. So why are you apologizing? When you were younger, or you were younger and I was a kid, like a child, it was not a big deal to you. But now I'm mature, and then he goes, when he was doing it then, he didn't know what he was doing, even though he was of age. He was the one supposed to protect me, but he didn't do it because he was stupid. And now it turned out that I am of age. He sees the kind of woman I've turned out to be. Then I'd become born again. So he said that he's just looking at the kind of life he lived as a teenager into his early youth, and he's thinking he has ruined his life. There is nothing good about him, and he's seeing me as an upcoming successful young woman, and he just feels so sorry for himself, and so sorry for everything he put me through as a child. So he decided to apologize so I could forgive and forget about the past. And the second reason for his apology is because somehow he thinks that if I find it in my heart to forgive him, his life would now turn around and have a meaning. And at that point, I was like, really, God, why are you putting me in this fix? Because I'd said to myself, I'm never going to talk about that incident to him. In fact, if there is any time this discussion is coming, I will find a way of avoiding it. So when he asked for forgiveness, I was like, okay, so as a Christian, you have to forgive. And I said, okay, you are forgiven. Then he said, am I sure? I said, 100%, I'm sure. So he said, okay, thank you very much. And then he prayed for me and asked me to pray for him. I prayed for him. And then that was it. I left and I continued with my life. So the same age 8, when he made the first attempt and did it over a period of time, for a long time, there was another cousin, father side, who also did the same thing, because all of them, mother side, father side cousins, they all come during the holidays to have holiday in our place, and then they go back when school resumes. So this father side cousin came. He's also older than me. He came, and I think this mother side cousin told him that, don't worry, if you are feeling we can, that's what he does. So the father side cousin did it only once. He also called me into the room and I think he is a bit romantic, so to say, because he first said stories, all the nice, nice things, how beautiful I am, how everything I can't even remember. But I knew he was just a bit nicer than the mother side cousin. So after all of that, and then he even begged me, he said, please, I want to do this. I want to beg you to allow me. And I'm like, "Ah, you want to beg me? Okay." So I opened up and he did. And all of this, I think this thing they say about youthful exuberance, like all of this was not even maybe more than 3 minutes, like 180 seconds. It's all over. And then I'm thinking, so what's the enjoyment? When I became mature, I was asking myself, so what was the enjoyment these guys derived then in having sex for just 3 minutes? Like 3 minutes. It's just crazy. But things that young people do. So he did once and that was it. I think he felt very bad after that because, like, 2 days later, he came to me to apologize. He seriously apologized. He sees himself as closer to us more than the mother side cousin. So he feels that it is very, very irresponsible of him to have done that to me. So he apologized. I was like, well, I don't even know if this apology, I was 8 years old. So I couldn't interpret the apology. You just come to me and say, I'm sorry. Then I'm there looking at you and thinking, okay, you are sorry for what? What am I supposed to say in response? Or what am I supposed to do after you've said, I'm sorry? We just continued with life. So he also finished secondary school about the same time. So he went to uni. And you know what happens when it's your first year in uni and somehow they catch you young, like the Christians on campus catch you young and you become born again and all of that. So I think he became born again that time and that session, I mean, is now in uni. So he became born again that session and came back for holiday. And when he came back, the apology this time was really, really in depth. He knelt down, he apologized, he even tried to preach the gospel to me. He opened his Bible, it was a Bible study time, he quoted scriptures and everything. And although I was born into a Christian family, but then I was too young to understand what being born again was. So he told me everything, how I should be born again. I'm just thinking, but I know Christ. Yes, I know Jesus is our Lord and Savior. I didn't understand that aspect of you must have an encounter to be born again. So everything he was just saying to me, I was just nodding my head. I'm happy for him that, okay, your life is turning out good now. You won't do that stupid thing you did with me. You won't do it with me and you won't do it with other girls again. So I was happy for him. We had a good relationship. Every time he came for holidays, he's always looking out for me because he wanted to be sure that I am fine, that I have forgiven him, and that somebody else is not doing it to me, that I'm not being traumatized and I'm just keeping it to myself because he knew that I didn't tell our parents. So he was always looking out for me, like he wants to be sure that no man is trying anything with me. So that's only happened once, and that was it. But the mother side cousin happened for a very long time, and of course, he came to apologize. I forgave him, prayed for him. My parents don't know about it. None of my siblings knows about it because I never mentioned it to anybody. I only mentioned it to my husband while we were courting because, like they always tell us in counseling, you should tell your spouse to be everything you think he should know. So I told him about it, and yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much for sharing it. I can imagine I would have been. And I want to ask you, how old were these guys then? If you were 8, how old were they?
I was 8, so let's say plus 9, 17. Yeah. The oldest one was 17 because, yeah, I think he's 9 years or if not 10 years older than me. And then the younger one, because the mother side cousin is the oldest and the father side cousin is younger. The father side cousin was born in 77. So at that time, He would be 6 years older than myself. So at that time, 6 plus 8, it was 14. Yeah, it was 14, and the other one was 17.
Wow, that's intense. Thank you so much for taking the time to share your experience with us. I pray that those that are listening would make a life changing decision if you have been molested. I think it's time to, if you haven't let go, to let go and let Christ have his way. Or if you have actually been holding it inside, it's a time to share it. And you can get in touch with me at this Gmail address or make a comment in one way if you'd like to share your experience so that other people might be blessed. And if you are a molester, it's time to change or you will be judged one day. It will come back to you. You can see from the story that we have had that you can change. You can give your life to Christ. You can move forward to be a better person. And parents, please be sensitive to your children. Have a relationship with them. Don't rent courses. Learn to listen. Even what you're hearing seems to be not what you want to hear. Take the time to listen to them. Teach them sex education. Don't be too open to just let anybody into your home. Be careful in everything. Put it before God. Because the person is your brother, sister, or your elder, or your uncle, or relative, does not mean that person has the interest of your children. So please be careful. Put all our children into prayer and pray that God will keep our children. Thank you once again for watching this channel. God bless you.